Bing.
We're live. We are live on the Debbie Daily Show, and I have got Jewish producer with me, and we are here to talk about Ferguson erupting. What? What did I say?
Said you're a woman of action. You were quick.
We're on the air.
You're bubbly, Debbie. You're bubbly.
You're bubbly, too. Let me close some things. I was just walking into my office, and I didn't even know what was going on. Let's see. Force quit. Let's force quit. Google. No, not Google Chrome. Let's force quit Mail and QuickTime 7 and Safari and Audacity. And there we go. Okay. All we have open now is Chrome and Skype.
Oh, so, stop with the noises.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
God damn. Mute yourself.
I'm sorry.
Wears me out.
No yawning and no... Unless provoked.
Yes, it was provoked. So, are we on Spreaker, or are we just talking just between the three of us?
No, it's just
between the three of us
just
and
us.
Whoever's listening.
Yeah.
We're not on the air.
We're not on the air? We're on the air.
Damn it.
We're on the air. Stop lying. I'm kidding. Are we on the air? For real.
You still don't
it's
believe
just
us?
us and whoever's listening.
Oh, shit. Why am I laughing?
Talk about anything you want to talk about.
Nothing.
Talk about anything you want to talk about, Mr. Midnight Movie. We're not on the air.
Yes. You start talking about Ferguson. What do you know about Ferguson? Stop.
The grand jury should convene, they said, sometime probably next week.
We know that. It's about to blow. Why is this a big topic? Who gives a fuck? What happened? Somebody get shot?
They care because, I guess they're afraid that there's going to be violence.
I'm sorry. I know why. Let me ask a better question. Is this a white case, an issue of white guilt? Is this related?
Oh, absolutely. It's an issue of white guilt. I mean, this is an issue of
You're
white
bubbly.
guilt.
Wait. You're bubbly. Wait a minute. Wait. You're bubbly. Is there anything you can close on your system?
I can close something.
I've closed every. Okay, let me.
Is he bubbly to you, JP?
Who's bubbly?
He is, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I might. I
just closed Google Chrome. Am I still bubbly?
Let me close my Audacity and see if that helps.
Yeah, I did too. I closed everything but Skype and Chrome because I've got my Spreaker show on Chrome.
Go ahead and talk, Mr. Midnight.
All right. I think that it's probably the white guilt. I mean, it's a byproduct.
All right. Let's do. Hang on a second. Let's hang up and let me call both of y'all on mine and see what happens. Okay. I'm going to hang up.
Good deal.
All right. There, I disconnected the boys, and now I'm going to call them back and see if we can get a little bit better connection going here. Okay. Let me call them separately. Yeah. I'll call them separately. Let me first call Mr. Midnight Movie. There he is. Let me call him. Dude. Okay. Say something.
Hello. Buenos nachos.
Oh, you sound excellent. Okay, now let's ring in JP. Let me ring him in. Oh,
no, let you ring him in. You ring him in.
You sound perfect now. You were really you were kind of bubbly. So let's. Okay,
you ring him in.
Here he comes. Well, I added him. It didn't pop up. You know how sometimes I can't do that for some reason. Come on already and add. Nope, I can't. If he could call me, I'll answer it. Let me tell him to call me. I'm just going to say, okay, call me.
You want me to call him?
No, let's let him call me and I'll ring him into this call.
Well, what you got to do is you got to press the call, but you got to do the call. You can't because he's not on. You got to do the call thing on the top. Okay, never mind.
I'm clicking add to call and it's not going through for some reason. Can you add him, I guess? I can't.
Let me see. Let me add him up here.
Okay.
Let me see if they're going to let me do it.
I wish he would call me.
All right, I'm adding him. Does it look like he's added?
I'll have to go over there and look. Nope. Oh, because it shows him to be offline. Oh, there he comes. Here he comes. Okay, now, there you are. Well, I clicked yes. Why won't it? Oh, what the?
All right, do it again. Do it again, Debbie.
No, he called me. He needs to call me again. Let me tell him to try that again. Hey. This is crazy. I can't get him in.
What's going on here, Debbie?
I'm not doing it. Don't look at me. I don't know what's going on. It won't let me add him. It won't let you add him. Okay, hold on. He said no answer.
All right, I told him to call you. He usually does as I tell him. Oh.
Maybe it's because he's not online. It shows something else like he's offline or something. That usually affects it. Sometimes it won't let us call him when it shows him offline.
That sucks.
Yeah, we got to get JP back. He's the one that called me.
Yeah, I know.
Let me call him and try to add you. How about that?
Will do. Let's do that.
Okay. Now I'm going to call JP. What a mess. Hopefully it'll fix itself. Come on, JP, answer. Now JP won't answer. What is going on? This is insane. JP won't answer. I don't know where he went or what he did. But it just says ringing and ringing and ringing. He won't answer. Maybe something's wrong with his Skype or something. I don't know. Well, he didn't answer. I'll try one more time. You need to end this call before you start a new one. Oh, sorry. This is crazy. Okay, let's see what happens now. I'm calling somebody. Hey, guys.
Yeah.
For
I
some
don't
reason,
see JP.
Yeah, he's not answering. See where it shows that he's ringing? He won't answer. I don't know why. I've been calling him ever since I hung up with you, so I just decided to go back to the group call and call back in. You sound great, though. Well, we'll just see if he answers. We'll just continue talking.
Can you call a Skype? Here, hold on.
No, it's calling him. Don't you see right there? Look on the call screen. It shows him. It shows it calling him. He doesn't answer. I don't know why he doesn't answer, but he doesn't answer. Let's see what's going on. This was
That's his Skype number.
That's his cell phone number.
No, it's a Skype number.
Oh.
That's his Skype. Yeah, that's his number to his Skype. So I wonder if you called that, if that would do anything.
Okay, let me try that in just a second.
We've got a new alert now from the FBI ahead of that imminent grand jury decision in Ferguson, Missouri. The feds warning extremists may hijack peaceful protests around the country, and Missouri's governor has declared a state of emergency, bracing for possible violence. ABC's Pierre Thomas tracking all the latest from Washington. Good morning, Pierre.
Good morning, George. That's right. Today, the FBI is concerned that agitators will use crowds of peaceful
Let's wait on that for a second while we see if we can secure a connection with Jewish Producer. It just shows ringing, 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 ringing on Jewish Producer. It still shows it's ringing.
No!
Okay, I'll try to add that phone number that you gave me. I have to put it in there first. That's what the one angry Jew taught me. Bump, bump, bump. Bump, 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 bump. Okay, now I hit add. We'll see if he answers this one. I don't know. Maybe he stepped away from his computer or something. Well.
Oh,
well, it's just going to sit there and ring and ring and ring. Well, he's added to the call. All he has to do is just pick up and call. He did try to call me, though. It's just ringing off the wall. So he's added to both calls, and we tried and tried and tried. So you want to go ahead and just start telling everybody what we have to talk about here?
Well, I guess we were talking about the decision that's going to come from the grand jury in Ferguson, Missouri. And what exactly is, I guess, going to happen there?
Okay, we have a video which you can see on your Skype screen if you take a look. And let's see what happens on this video starting now. Here we go.
Are high after an unarmed teenager was shot dead by a police officer.
Police say there was a fight for the officer's gun. A different explanation from the friend walking with Brown.
Officers pulling him inside the car. He's trying to pull away.
The Family Dollar being looted.
About the violence, not what my son would want.
Young people out on the streets clashed with police.
Now's the time for peace and calm on the streets of Ferguson.
The officer that was involved in the shooting of Michael Brown was Darren Wilson.
Four of the gunshot wounds were to his arm, but he was killed by the bullet that struck the top of his head.
Right now, the National Guard has been deployed.
12 grand jurors who began reviewing evidence behind closed doors today.
Michael also stated one day the world would know his name.
Brown family sends a passionate plea this morning to allow cooler heads to prevail in times of adversity.
Ferguson, Missouri tonight, and that state of emergency declared late today. The National Guard now deployed, families bracing for what could come as the grand jury decides whether to charge a white police officer in the death of that unarmed black teen, Michael Brown. And this evening, this surveillance footage that's now emerged of the police officer right after the shooting getting so much attention. ABC's Steve Osensami is there tonight.
The crowd shutting down traffic and shouting for justice set up shop today right outside grand jury proceedings, where they're still debating possible criminal charges against Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson.
I think that St. Louis is going to get an awakening that it didn't want.
Protest groups are already planning action in these 61 cities, saying Wilson murdered this black teenager, pointing today to newly released surveillance video obtained by the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. That's Officer Wilson in the white T-shirt just hours after the shooting, leaving for the hospital with police representatives. Police have always reported that Michael Brown gave Wilson a beatdown before the shooting, but the Brown family attorney says it's hard to see any injuries here.
Well, I think the lack of injuries on the officer's face demonstrates that they exaggerated his injuries.
21 to 25 or 22. You guys need me?
But newly released radio traffic from the same day shows Wilson, Unit 21, didn't just randomly stop Brown and his friend. It's now clear the shooting only happened after Wilson responded to this radio call about an alleged strong-arm robbery a half-mile away.
He's with another male. He's got a red Cardinals hat, white T-shirt, yellow socks.
Police say the suspect seen in this surveillance video with his hands around the storekeeper's neck is Michael Brown himself. Tonight, school officials are sending notices like this one home to parents. When the decision comes down, classes are canceled. Authorities are telling residents they should prepare as if this were a major storm. David?
All right, Steve Osensami on the scene.
Reaction now to newly released video and audio tapes of the day a young black man was shot and killed by a white police officer, touching up weeks of sometimes violent unrest in Ferguson, Missouri.
That town is very tense this morning, waiting for a grand jury to decide any day now whether the cop will be charged in this case. And ABC's Tom Yamas is here with the very latest. Good morning.
Dan and Paula, good morning to you. Any day now, the grand jury investigating the Michael Brown shooting will make their decision on whether to indict Officer Darren Wilson. Police claim Wilson was attacked, forced to fire, and this morning we have new evidence that you're about to see that is a key part of the investigation. This morning, the family of Michael Brown responding to this newly released evidence, saying it seems to conflict with what police say transpired the day the unarmed teenager was shot to death by police officer Darren Wilson.
Did they exaggerate his injuries to somehow try to justify killing this unarmed teenager in broad daylight?
Wilson claiming self-defense, that he was attacked by Brown. Ferguson's police chief telling ABC's Steve Osunsami there were visible injuries.
His face was swollen, so he'd obviously been hit or punched or something like that.
But Brown's family say Wilson appears to be unharmed here on these videos obtained by the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, showing Wilson leaving the Ferguson Police Department 2 hours.
Have we heard enough, or should we keep on going?
Well, let's keep going. This is rather interesting. But yeah, I mean, there will be close-up pictures of his injuries sooner or later
to comment on the items released after an open records request, which included audio of Wilson's radio traffic just before the shooting. The Brown family's attorney says the recordings show no connection between officers searching for a robbery suspect.
It's going to be a black male in a white T-shirt. He's running toward Quick Trip.
And then Wilson, Unit 21, first reported coming across Brown and a friend.
21, put me on Canfield, platoon.
The initial interaction between the police officer and Michael Brown Jr.
Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds like they're calling in somebody that's just robbed a convenience store. He's headed here and he's headed there, right?
Confrontation, something happened. Wilson firing his weapon, killing Brown.
There's several more units over here. There's going to be a problem.
And we do want to mention those videos don't appear to show any injuries on Officer Wilson, but they also do not show his face clearly enough or close up. Ferguson and cities around the U.S. are bracing.
He shouldn't have said that.
The outcome of that grand jury investigation, all eyes on Ferguson, guys.
Absolutely. So many open questions in this case and so much concern about what's going to happen next. Tom, thank you.
Hello, Jewish producer.
We've got a new alert now from the FBI ahead of that imminent grand jury decision.
Call again.
Oh, what? Do what?
What happened?
Play on.
Okay.
Oh, play on.
ABC's Pierre Thomas tracking all the latest from Washington. Good morning, Pierre.
Good morning, George. That's right. Today, the FBI is concerned that agitators will use crowds of peaceful protesters as cover to incite violence.
Worried about the violent past and with new intelligence coming in, the FBI has sent a bulletin to police across the country. It warns that violent individuals will likely try to exploit peaceful protests and attack law enforcement in Ferguson and possibly nationwide. According to the bulletin, suspects could be armed with knives and guns and tactical gear like tear gas masks and bulletproof vests. The warning cites specific recent intelligence that's causing concern, including threatening messages. November 9th, an unidentified black separatist group offered a $5,000 bounty for Officer Wilson's location on a social media site. 4 days earlier, a Georgia police officer receives a pamphlet saying "Keep calm and kill cops," clearly referencing the Michael Brown shooting. There's also concern that hackers might conduct cyber attacks against police, posting their personal information and shutting down their computer networks.
So a state of emergency declared, the National Guard on standby in this new warning from the FBI. You can see why they're also planning to close schools in Ferguson once that decision comes down.
This one's called Ferguson in 60
Tensions are
seconds.
high after an unarmed teenager was shot dead by a police officer.
Police say there was a fight.
I think we already saw this one.
Yeah, I think
we did. Okay, we saw all four, or either all four or all five of the videos that we were listening to.
Yeah.
So what are we waiting on right now?
We're waiting for the grand jury to convene whether to charge the police officer for the shooting death of Michael Brown, whether it was a murder or whether it was self-defense, whether this will go on trial or not. Because it might not go to trial. I mean, there might be, it might be such a clear-cut case of self-defense that it doesn't go to trial.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming that has certainly happened in the past, where people who are not carrying a firearm are shot dead because the other person is legitimately fearing for their life.
Well, it says that what is the grand jury being asked to decide about? It says a grand jury is asked 2 questions. Is there probable cause to believe a crime was committed? Is there some evidence according to the more likely than not standard that the person accused was involved in the crime? Says the civil rights attorney, Bob Herman. The grand jury's ruling will determine whether Wilson is charged with a crime and faces a trial. The charge could range from manslaughter to murder. The jury could decide that no criminal act was committed. The U.S. Attorney General's office is also investigating the incident, and they could determine if the officer violated Brown's civil rights. Now, it says, what are the evidence they are considering? Most grand juries hear from just a few witnesses, including individuals with authority in a specific case, but not everybody involved. That's not the case in this grand jury. State Prosecutor Robert McCullough has said that he was planning on presenting absolutely everything to the grand jury. If it was a homicide case, the lead investigator would come in and tell what evidence exists. They may talk about the medical examiner's report. Maybe the grand jury would have a copy of it. But this case is an unusual event because he has called every witness and present every piece of evidence that exists. It didn't make any sense. I think in part because he wants to be able to say, look, you have accused me of being biased. That's a quote. There is a concern that the grand jury will do whatever the prosecutor will tell the grand jury to do. How can they say, look, I didn't hold anything back. I presented everything. They, the jurors, had an opinion, had an option to ask for more if they wanted. Now, do we know any of the witnesses that they're asking to testify? Well, it says officially the list of witnesses is kept sealed, but through leaks, some of the witnesses have been reported. One whose testimony was widely publicized was the Brown's family forensic expert, former New York City Chief Medical Examiner, Dr. Michael Baden. Another controversial witness reportedly was the officer Darren Wilson himself. Ryle said that the fact that the man at the center of the case was called was in and of itself very unusual. Riles also said that if the prosecutor kept his promise to include everything, Riles suspects that the jury will receive testimony from all of the witnesses at the scene of the crime that would have heard from the police investigators. Aside from the witnesses, there would be a whole body of information around the forensic investigation, where the shell casings landed, the blood splatters, and all that kind of, nasty stuff. So that, what was this other thing? It says, is there one central conflict between the two sides? Okay, the most crucial disagreement was claims by bystanders that Brown had his hands up when the final shots were fired, while the officer in the police department claimed the cop feared for his life as Brown kept advancing towards him, like stop, pow, stop, pow, stop, pow. The police union in Ferguson Police Department said that Wilson initially stopped Brown and a friend and told them to stop walking in the street and blocking traffic. It is not clear whether Wilson at some point became aware that Brown matched the description of a suspect of a theft of cigars from a nearby convenience store. Police said that Wilson was assaulted by Brown while the officer was still sitting in his car. They claimed that there was a struggle over the officer's gun and that Wilson fired at least one shot from inside the patrol car. Brown then ran off. The officer exited the patrol car. Dorian Johnson, who was with Brown at the time of the shooting, said the teenager did not attempt to grab the cop's gun and that Brown ran from the officer. Well, what did the autopsies tell about the shooting? Well, 2 autopsies have been conducted on Brown's body, one by the St. Louis County coroner and one by Dr. Michael Baden at the request of the Brown family. Also, the U.S. Department of Justice has ordered an autopsy. Baden's autopsy concluded that Brown was shot at least 6 times and that the final bullet struck Brown in the top of his head. Was it from the front or the back? The county autopsy, according to St. Louis Post-Dispatch, which obtained a copy of the document, suggests that Brown was shot in the hand at close range and that there might have been gunpowder burns, which could support Wilson's description of a struggle over the gun. Experts have said that the autopsy and forensic report are unlikely to be able to determine whether Brown's hands were raised when he was shot. A couple more questions. Did Darren Wilson suffer any injuries during the incident? Police have said that Wilson was taken to the hospital with a serious facial injury. Hospital and police records show that Wilson was taken to the hospital. A video of Wilson taken the night of the shooting shows no obvious facial injuries. Who sits on the grand jury? Well, that's 12 people. What has their life been like since joining the grand jury? We don't care about that. Okay, so there you have it. If we were on the grand jury, how would we vote?
I don't know. I don't know all the evidence. I mean, we don't even know the extent of Darren Wilson's injuries. There's been no public pictures of his injuries.
They just showed them. Did you not see them when they showed them?
No, I didn't. I did not see. Is there a way that we can, instead of on that videotape, is there a way? Are there pictures? Are there close-up pictures? But what you're seeing here are far-away pictures. Right. Are there close-up pictures of his injuries? Because when you go to the hospital, I mean, there's obviously perhaps pictures of the injuries to his face.
Well, let's take a look and see what we got. Now, the one I saw showed this right here, right?
Hold on one second. I'm getting a thing of water, Sarah. Okay, the one you saw showed. Go ahead.
The right thumb, the right forearm, the right.
No. Okay, I'm talking about Darren Wilson and the injuries to his face.
Oh, I don't know. That's not him. I don't think they're going to show a dead guy.
Wait. Is that no? I'm not talking about. I'm talking about, but they would show the injuries to Darren Wilson.
Oh,
the
Wilson!
officer.
I am so stupid, Mr. Midnight Movie. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about Michael Brown. I'm sorry. Photos of Darren Wilson. Okay, my bad. My total bad. I'm sorry. Let's see. We're not going to.
Are there any photos of him?
Oh, I guess that is him. That's not what he looked like, is it?
Well, if that's him, is that him?
That's not him. This is him right here because we saw him on that video.
It says hoax on there, so that's because this guy does not have a receding hairline.
No, that's not him at all. I'm guessing that
that's Trayvon.
Right.
So there are no public pictures of Darren Wilson's photos of his injuries.
I'm thinking not. Wow, look at that. Who is this? Oh, that's a Michael Brown post. Oh, he did that himself. He painted all that on there. That's ridiculous. Well,
what a silly person. And it's like
photograph.
Some people out there, this is the time for the drama queens to go out, the civil rights drama queens to go out and make their protest.
You know what I don't understand is I don't understand with all the cell phones everywhere, why wasn't there more video of that shooting that day?
Yeah, you know what? Probably if there was shooting going on, people probably ducked and covered. They weren't fucking. They're not gonna. Ooh, no. So yeah. So far there are no photographs, close-up photographs of Darren Wilson's injuries, and I'm assuming that there are.
They do have a video of him walking in the hallway that night, and he certainly didn't look like he had an injury to me. But
that's a close-up injury, and they may be more extensive on what exactly happened to the injuries. There's been so much misinformation out there, and right now it's like. One of the reasons I almost wanted to go to trial is because that will clear up the misinformation that's out there.
You know something? I'm going to really go out on a limb here. Mm-hmm. It certainly looks suspicious with these injuries to his right thumb, his right forearm, his right elbow, his right bicep, and his right eye, and his right throat, and his right side. I mean, why is everything on the right there? I don't understand. I don't understand that.
You know what I mean? You know what? Because they're all on the inside, which would mean if they're all on the inside, if they're all like the one gunshot there It's on the inside of his
bicep.
His bicep. On the inside of his bicep. So it's not on the side of his bicep, but it would seem that he would be running.
And look at this. It's on the inside of his hand. It's on the inside of his forearm. Hold your right hand straight up over the air. And imagine I've got a gun and I go, pow, 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 pow. And I'm shooting you in your right arm. That's exactly the way it goes. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4. How many? See, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess that's 5, 6, 7.
Because did he have his hands up and then lunge forward? Or that's...
Now, this right here, Mr. Midnight Movie, is indicative, in my opinion, that he did have his hands up when he was getting shot. Look at that.
Yeah, that picture there does show that. That he had
Maybe
his
he
hands
was
up.
coming towards him with his hands up.
And he told him to stay back.
And he wouldn't stop. And he thought that once he got close enough, he was going to beat the shit out of him or take his gun away, because he's a big boy.
Yeah, he was 6'4".
Woo,
so
that's a big old boy. And not only was he 6'4", but he was.
But here's another autopsy photo right here that we're looking at. That's right between Darren Wilson and Michael Brown. That one shows something different. Take a look at that one. Now that one shows that it's that the shots were on. Okay. Oh, what?
I got it. Hold on, right here.
Okay. Because now that one shows the side of his bicep, not the inside. So that autopsy photo right there shows that he was shot on the inside of the bicep, not the. It was showing that it was on the side of the bicep, not the inside of the bicep.
My bad. I'm getting a text message from the lady at the show. I'm going to go to this picture myself and just blow up this picture, because I think you are correct. Okay, let's blow this up and take a lookie. But look, his arms are turned outwards, like he's going to do some curls, See, his arms are turned outward.
So could he have run and then because when you're running towards someone, could a shot?
1, 2, 3. He had 4 shots from his neck up, from right there on his collarbone, right there in his jaw, in his eye, and on top of his head. Why does that say Anthony Gray? That's not Anthony. I think this is Michael Brown. Yeah, it is. It's
so
Michael
these
Brown.
are on the inside, but I'm thinking when you're running towards someone, you can get shot on the inside. Like when you're running, and I'm doing a running motion, you can get shot, but depending on how the bullet enters as well.
Bullets entering the inside of Michael Brown's right arm and Brown's right palm suggests that Brown had his arms in the surrender position. I totally agree.
But we just saw another autopsy photo, Debbie, that didn't show that.
No, we didn't. Look how his hands are turned outward, Mr. Like I said, his hands are turned outward, not inward. So it's showing him on the inside, the inside, the inside, the inside.
But you know what? Because now I'm thinking it could have shot. He could have, as he's running, he could have shot. Shot him on the inside. The bullets could have landed on the inside. Because when you're running, you're.
Yeah, I know. Right,
okay?
Right.
So.
Well, you could be right, because if he's turned around and he's running this way, and his arms are flinging back and forward, he could have. But it certainly looks like to me he had his hands up. It just does. I don't know. I hate to.
Well, that's really what the grand jury is trying to decide.
And there wasn't more witnesses to that?
You know what? But witnesses can be unreliable. Witnesses are, videotape, but even videotape can show you something that's different. It's and we can be a lot more scientific now.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, when you're punched in the face and you're afraid, you're kind of unaware, of. He was probably disorientated at the time. To me, once you strike a cop, you strike somebody, the fact is they're afraid.
I couldn't believe how long they let that guy lay there dead. That was really weird to me. It took forever for somebody to get there to help him.
You know what? This is also one of the reasons why Jesus, and that's pretty brutal.
Yeah, and his mom saw that and everything.
Yeah.
Man.
So, yeah, we'll wait until what the grand jury sees, and I think it might be good to have a trial, just if only due to the fact that the truth can come out, and the truth can come out for everybody. Because if anything is hidden, if anything is not in plain sight, then you're not going to have. Then people are going to be stewing and angry. So you want to have all the evidence that's available.
It just seems to me that the evidence is going to be somebody that was there and saw something. I mean, it's a big
but
guy.
How many eyewitness testimony is there?
This is a big guy here. He's a big guy.
And look, I mean, people who rob convenience stores are not good people. I've never done anything, even in the days when I was somewhat of an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
I've never done anything like that. I almost got in a few fights with convenience store owners, but that would have been mutual combat. But I've never robbed, stolen something that didn't belong to me.
Yeah, I don't feel right about that kind of stuff. I've never done that either.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know. To me, people making that. I mean, it is a dead boy, but it's still. I mean, he's not. He wasn't a noble. He wasn't. He didn't seem like a very noble or good person.
I don't know that. I can't comment on that, but it just bothers me that they can't determine. It certainly. I hate to keep saying this over and over, but it certainly did look like his hands were up. I don't know why. It just did to me.
It did.
It did to you too, didn't it?
Now, Stefan Molyneux, and I can't remember all of it, but he had a very thorough thing on Ferguson, on Michael Brown.
This is the officer's incident report. I'm just seeing if there's anything on that.
Can you blow it up?
Yeah, I can blow it up. It says, so I returned to blank to contact the employee there. I contacted blank on the parking lot, who continued to point up West Florissant toward Quick Trip and say, he went that way. He was indicating with his hands toward his chest and then north on West Florissant. I still could not see the suspect on West Florissant. So we went inside to contact a whatever clerk who was not identified at the time, and a patron who was not identified at the time, who advised the suspect took cigars and pushed his way out. He was wearing a white T-shirt, khaki shorts, yellow socks, and red cardinal ball cap. They also stated that another black male was with him, but gave no further description on that suspect. I gave out the information over the radio, and I drove northbound on West Florissant to try to find the suspect, and I did not locate the suspects on West Florissant, so I went into the Quick Trip to search for the suspects, and I did not locate them there. Anything further will be submitted in a supplemental report.
That really tells us nothing.
Told us a lot.
Yeah. Nothing. But like I said, Stefan Molyneux had a very interesting take on that. I don't know if you saw it or not.
No, I did not. See what we got here. Let's see. Right here? He's got his hands up? This one? YouTube? Or what pisses me off about the Michael Brown shooting?
Yeah, that one's good. That one, yeah.
Well, this one says the truth about Michael Brown and the Ferguson riots. Let's try this one. This sounds a little bit more
Hi, everybody. This is Stefan Molyneux from Free Domain Radio.
Hi, welcome to the show, Stefan. I'm glad you're here. What do you know about the Michael Brown and the Ferguson riots?
It is with a heavy heart that we turn our attention to Ferguson, Missouri, where recently a young black man, Michael Brown, was shot by a white...
Can I double-check the date on this other one? This one was August 17th, and this one was October 24th. I think you're right. We need to go with this one.
Go with the earlier one.
Shut up. You were right.
Hi, everybody. Stefan Molyneux from Free Domain Radio. Yes.
Hi, Stefan.
It's time to circle back to the Michael Brown killing. New information has emerged that really changes the entire narrative and will result in any reasonably minded people apologizing for all of the earlier race baiting that has occurred in this tragic situation. So, before we get to the actual evidence, which is being presented to the grand jury as we speak, we're going to look at last Saturday night. Last Saturday night, Michael Brown's grandmother and his cousin were selling Michael Brown merchandise in a parking lot out back of some store. According to police reports, Michael Brown's mother pulled up in a car with some people.
And attacked him.
And Michael Brown's mother screamed at her relatives, "You can't sell this shit!" And one of the relatives yelled back, demanded to know whether she had a patent on Michael Brown. And things escalated quickly, and an unidentified companion of Michael Brown's mother began assaulting Michael Brown's cousin with what is reported to be a metal pipe or pole, beating his face in. A 911 call was placed, and medics took this poor young man to Christian Northeast Hospital. And then the friend of Michael Brown's mom, who had beaten Michael Brown's cousin with a metal pipe, grabbed the merchandise and a cash box believing to have contained about $1,400. So, I tell you what this does for me.
It tells me that Michael Brown was raised in a violent home.
Window into the hellscape of Michael Brown's childhood.
Bingo.
So, his mom drives up in a car with people who are willing to beat in the face with a metal pipe.
Who are armed and... he's right.
Michael Brown's cousin over petty cash and some T-shirts. I was raised to believe that a person is known by the company that he or she keeps. This is low company. This is violent thug company. This is the environment that Michael Brown grew up in. That, to me, is the fundamental tragedy of all of this. The degree to which this altercation over T-shirts erupts into face metal pipe beating violence so quickly. And then, after saying that all the Ferguson cops are racists who kill blacks, what do? They call the cops. I think that puts a little bit of a ding in the narrative.
Wait. I like that. All they talk about is how racist the cops are, but who do they call? The cops. Right?
That's right.
You're doing good tonight with the mute button. Okay, let's keep going here. So far, so good.
So, let's look at some of the facts that are now emerging in the grand jury testimony. First and foremost, 7 or 8 amazingly brave and courageous African Americans have stepped forward and are providing testimony that is consistent with Officer Wilson's account. But none of them have spoken publicly for fear of their safety, right? In that kind of hood, snitches get stitches and, I believe, possibly thrown in ditches. So this helps us understand why there seems to be a bit of a salmon in a current conformity with regards to the testimony regarding this incident. They want to be anonymous because they fear the repercussions in their own community for telling the truth of what they saw. So, according to the testimony of the 7 or 8 blacks who claim to be eyewitnesses, according to Officer Wilson, and in accordance with the actual evidence of what happened, this is the story. I'm not saying this is all proven and true, but this is the most consistent, most verified story there is. After he finished with a call for a sick baby, Officer Wilson was driving along, and he spotted Brown and his friend, Dorian Johnson. They're walking down the middle of the road, traffic passing them on either side. Wilson asked or ordered the men to move to the sidewalk. And Johnson pointed out the pair's destination, and they just kept walking down the middle of the road. Brown was walking by holding cigarillos in his hand, and he cursed Wilson. And now, after Brown passed by, Wilson realized that Johnson's clothing matched a recent radio alert about a suspect in a robbery at a nearby market where cigarillos had been taken. Wilson radioed for assistance, backed up his SUV to Brown and Johnson. Wilson tried to get out of the SUV after placing it in park. Brown slammed the door shut and punched Wilson in the left side of the face through the open window. Brown was trapped in the front seat, couldn't use his pepper spray in the confined space because if you pepper spray someone, you incapacitate yourself if it's that enclosed. His baton was in the back of his utility belt, so he was basically sitting on it. He did not have a taser, so he drew his gun. Brown then grabbed at the pistol using his right hand with his elbow against Wilson. Remember, Brown, 280 pounds or so. During the struggle, Brown handed the cigarillos to Johnson and then swung his left hand and hit Wilson on the right side of the face. Wilson said that he almost lost consciousness at that moment. Brown then began to use his left hand in the struggle for the gun and turned the pistol until the barrel was against Wilson's hip. Wilson positioned his finger, trying to prevent Brown from reaching the trigger. When Wilson pulled himself back towards the passenger side of the SUV, Brown's grip loosened enough for Wilson to try and pull the trigger himself. But the gun didn't fire. Wilson theorizes that Brown's hand may have been on the hammer, preventing it from moving. The second time Wilson pulled the trigger, the gun did fire. Wilson told investigators he thought the bullet had struck Brown in the hand. This is verified by the physical evidence of gunshot residue and a gunshot wound to Michael Brown's hand. Essential. If Michael Brown's hand is shot at close range, it could only have been during an altercation with the officer. Which means if the powder was close to the hand, which it is, then he was probably or almost certainly reaching for the gun. Blood on the door, blood on the gun, blood on Wilson's hands, and he didn't even know whose blood it was at the time. The struggle continued. Wilson attempted to pull the trigger 2 times more. Wilson thought the Brown's hand may have interfered again. Wilson was able to fire a second shot and Brown ran, got out of the SUV and chased Brown. Brown stopped and turned. Wilson said Brown did not have his hands up. His left hand was slightly out, fingers pointing down. His right hand was grasping his shirt. Then Brown began charging towards him. Okay, so just so we understand, he stops, gets assaulted, guy grabs for his gun, he shoots the guy's hand, guy runs away, he gets out, he's already radioed for backup, guy starts charging him. Wilson yelled for Brown to stop, then fired when Brown did not stop. Brown flinched as if he was hit, and Wilson stopped shooting. Brown then continued charging towards him. Wilson fired several more shots. Wilson said Brown's head was down when the last shot hit him there. And the wounds on the top of the head are consistent with falling forward, not withstanding. And remember, this guy's a giant. He's huge. Unless Officer Wilson had a handy stepladder and some weird walk upside down on clouds matrix moves, he can't shoot him on the top of the head unless he's falling forward. Wilson then made another radio call for an ambulance. Official autopsy on Michael Brown shows that he was shot in the hand at close range. Utterly supports what Officer Wilson is saying. Michael Brown was shot in the hand at close range. Report on the supplemental microscopic exam of tissue from the thumb wound showed foreign matter consistent with products that are discharged from the barrel of a firearm. Forensic pathologist in San Francisco said the autopsy supports the fact that this guy is reaching for the gun. If he has gunpowder, particular material in the wound. So he's going for the officer's gun. The autopsy does not support witnesses who claim that Brown was shot.
What was he going to do with that gun?
Yeah. And you know what? I'm just reminded that he fell forward. If his hands were up and he had shot him, wouldn't he have fallen, and he was not lunging towards him, wouldn't he have fallen backwards and not forwards?
He was like trying to stop RoboCop. This kid. He couldn't be stopped. I mean, it was, pow, 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 pow. I just want to get this pulled up right here while we're listening to him, because this one wound is on the top of his head falling forward, but You mean this wound didn't stop him and that wound didn't stop him?
Yeah, and like I said before, if his hands were up and he was going, don't shoot, and he shot him anyway, wouldn't he have fallen back instead of falling forward?
Mm-hmm. No, you're definitely right about that. Let's keep going. This is good. I want to go back a little bit, though. Hold on just a second. He was going a little bit quick. And we are not biased either way here. We're keeping an open. I mean, we're just as willing to go with Michael Brown as we are with Darren Wilson, right? I am.
That's correct. Yeah, sure.
Okay, we're not. Okay.
The struggle continued. Wilson attempted to pull the trigger 2 times more. Wilson thought the Brown's hand may have interfered again. Wilson was able to fire a second shot and Brown ran, got out of the SUV and chased Brown. Brown stopped and turned. Wilson said Brown did not have his hands up. His left hand was slightly out, fingers pointing down. His right hand was grasping his shirt. Then Brown began charging towards him. Okay, so just so we understand, he stops, gets assaulted, guy grabs for his gun, he shoots the guy's hand, guy runs away, he gets out, he's already radioed for backup, guy starts charging him. Wilson yelled for Brown to stop, then fired when Brown did not stop. Brown flinched as if he was hit, and Wilson stopped shooting. Brown then continued, charging towards him. Wilson fired several more shots. Wilson said Brown's head was down when the last shot hit him there, and the wounds on the top of the head are consistent with falling forward, not withstanding. And remember, this guy's a giant. He's huge. Unless Officer Wilson had a handy stepladder and some weird walk upside down on clouds matrix moves, he can't shoot him on the top of the head unless he's falling forward. Wilson then made another radio call for an ambulance. Official autopsy on Michael Brown shows that he was shot in the hand at close range. Utterly supports what Officer Wilson is saying. Michael Brown was shot in the hand at close range. Report on the supplemental microscopic exam of tissue from the thumb wound showed foreign matter consistent with products that were discharged from the barrel of a firearm. Forensic pathologist in San Francisco said the autopsy supports the fact that this guy is reaching for the gun. If he has gunpowder particular material in the wound. So he's going for the officer's gun. The autopsy does not support witnesses who claim that Brown was shot while running away from Wilson or with his hands up. Shots were in the front, top of the head. Brown was facing Wilson when he took a shot to the forehead, 2 shots to the chest, and a shot to the upper right arm. Brown's blood was also found on Wilson's gun. A 6th shot that hit the forearm traveled from the back of the arm to the inner arm, which means that Brown's palms could not have been facing Wilson.
Wait. Did he just say blood was also found on Wilson's gun?
Yes.
And it was Michael Brown's blood, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay. How did that happen? I got confused on that part.
Well, he shot him when they were in the struggle. In the struggle, when they first were struggling, Darren Wilson shot him when they were like in the struggle, struggling for the gun. The first time,
right,
it was a misfire. In the second shot, he shot him and then he moved back. So they were struggling, and he shot him. I guess he shot him in the palm.
Okay. All right.
Witnesses have said. The trajectory shows Brown was probably not taking a standard surrender position with arms above the shoulders and palms out when he was hit. Blood spatter evidence shows Brown was heading towards the officer during their face-off. So let's just... Oh, and by the by, levels of marijuana in Brown's blood were so high that they could have caused hallucinations. So let's just run through a little checklist about this situation. Michael Brown, under the influence...
That's a big deal. Levels of marijuana, cannabis were so high in his bloodstream that it could have caused hallucinations. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. I mean, to have somebody hallucinating, he could have thought I don't know. That's just remember that little part, okay?
of marijuana, high levels of marijuana, wanted for a strong-arm robbery, has the stolen goods in his possession. He's jaywalking in the middle of traffic, cars going by on either side, disobeys an officer's request, curses at an officer, assaults and beats up an officer, tries to grab the officer's firearm and pull the trigger, refuses commands to desist, and charges at the officer. Please don't try and tell me this is about race. There is not one human being alive who was capable of doing that who would not have met the same fate. So, these are the facts that have been reported. Are they conclusive? Are they beyond any shadow of the doubt? Hard to say. I mean, in these situations, all we can go in with is the physical evidence. And the physical evidence and the witness testimony that is shielded by anonymity.
He plays golf. I'll tell you why in a minute. Welcome to the program, Mr. Solution. Welcome to the program, Mr. Solution.
Hello, hello.
How
I'm
are
listening in to all these documentary.
This is interesting. This is interesting.
Well, it is, but
we're also simulcasting my desktop on Skype, which Mr. Midnight Movie's looking at, so we can see what we're looking at. We can both see what we're talking about. I hope you can also see my desktop. We're looking at Stefan Molyneux right now, but we've been looking at pictures of Michael Brown and the fact that it looks very indicative that his hands were up when he was shot. Now, this one they say is at close range. I don't know if you can see my desktop here, but on Skype. But the one right here, let me blow this up. This one was shot from, he was obviously falling over. This one he was shot coming towards him. And then these look indicative. These were close range. The one on his hand and this one was close range. And then these two, it looked like to me his hands were up, but I'm not sure. Stefan Molyneux seems to have a pretty good grasp on what we're looking at here. Would you agree or disagree?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Well, I'm just coming into it. I'm just starting to listen, and I heard a little bit of what you were saying, but certainly not the whole of it.
Okay, then I want to back up and let you listen to this. This is amazing what he says right here, the way he does, and it goes pretty quick. The way he describes what happened with the testimony from Darren Wilson and everything. He's being very fair and he's not showing any favoritism either way. Let's take a listen again.
According to
here we go,
the testimony of the 7 or 8 blacks who claim to be eyewitnesses, according to Officer Wilson and in accordance with the actual evidence of what happened, this is the story. I'm not saying this is all proven and true, but this is the most consistent, most verified story there is. After he finished with a call for a sick baby, Officer Wilson was driving along, and he spotted Brown and his friend, Dorian Johnson. They're walking down the middle of the road, traffic passing them on either side. Wilson asked or ordered the men to move to the sidewalk. And Johnson pointed out the pair's destination, and they just kept walking down the middle of the road. Brown was walking by holding cigarillos in his hand, and he cursed Wilson. And now, after Brown passed by, Wilson realized that Johnson's clothing matched a recent radio alert about a suspect in a robbery at a nearby market where cigarillos had been taken. Wilson radioed for assistance, backed up his SUV to Brown and Johnson. Wilson tried to get out of the SUV after placing it in park. Brown slammed the door shut and punched Wilson in the left side of the face through the open window. Brown was trapped in the front seat, couldn't use his pepper spray in the confined space because if you pepper spray someone, you incapacitate yourself if it's that enclosed. His baton was in the back of his utility belt, so he was basically sitting on it. He did not have a taser, so he drew his gun. Brown then grabbed at the pistol using his right hand with his elbow against Wilson. Remember, Brown, 280 pounds or so. During the struggle, Brown handed the cigarillos to Johnson and then swung his left hand and hit Wilson on the right side of the face. Wilson said that he almost lost consciousness at that moment. Brown then began to use his left hand in the struggle for the gun and turned the pistol until the barrel was against Wilson's hip. Wilson positioned his finger, trying to prevent Brown from reaching the trigger. When Wilson pulled himself back towards the passenger side of the SUV, Brown's grip loosened enough for Wilson to try and pull the trigger himself. But the gun didn't fire. Wilson theorizes that Brown's hand may have been on the hammer, preventing it from moving. The second time Wilson pulled the trigger, the gun did fire. Wilson told investigators he thought the bullet had struck Brown in the hand. This is verified by the physical evidence of gunshot residue and a gunshot wound to Michael Brown's hand. Essential. If Michael Brown's hand is shot at close range, it could only have been during an altercation with the officer, which means if the powder was close to the hand, which it is, then he was probably or almost certainly reaching for the gun. Blood on the door, blood on the gun, blood on Wilson's hands, and he didn't even know whose blood it was at the time. The struggle continued. Wilson attempted to pull the trigger 2 times more. Wilson thought the Brown's hand may have interfered again. Wilson was able to fire a second shot and Brown ran, got out of the SUV and chased Brown. Brown stopped and turned. Wilson said Brown did not have his hands up. His left hand was slightly out, fingers pointing down. His right hand was grasping his shirt. Then Brown began charging towards him. Okay, so just so we understand, he stops, gets assaulted, guy grabs for his gun, he shoots the guy's hand, guy runs away, he gets out, he's already radioed for backup, guy starts charging him. Wilson yelled for Brown to stop, then fired, when Brown did not stop. Brown flinched as if he was hit, and Wilson stopped shooting. Brown then continued charging towards him. Wilson fired several more shots. Wilson said Brown's head was down when the last shot hit him there. And the wounds on the top of the head are consistent with falling forward, not with standing. And remember, this guy's a giant. He's huge. Unless Officer Wilson had a handy stepladder and some weird walk upside down on clouds matrix moves, he can't shoot him on the top of the head unless he's falling forward. Wilson then made another radio call for an ambulance. Official autopsy on Michael Brown shows that he was shot in the hand at close range. Utterly supports what Officer Wilson is saying. Michael Brown was shot in the hand at close range. Report on the supplemental microscopic exam of tissue from the thumb wound showed foreign matter consistent with products that are discharged from the barrel of a firearm. Forensic pathologist in San Francisco said the autopsy supports the fact that this guy is reaching for the gun. If he has gunpowder particulate material in the wound. So he's going for the officer's gun. The autopsy does not support witnesses who claimed that Brown was shot while running away from Wilson or with his hands up. Shots were in the front, top of the head. Brown was facing Wilson when he took a shot to the forehead, 2 shots to the chest, and a shot to the upper right arm. Brown's blood was also found on Wilson's gun. A 6th shot that hit the forearm traveled from the back of the arm to the inner arm, which means that Brown's palms could not have been facing Wilson, as some witnesses have said. The trajectory shows Brown was probably not taking a standard surrender position with arms above the shoulders and palms out when he was hit. Blood spatter evidence shows the Brown was heading towards the officer during their face-off. So let's just... Oh, and by the by, levels of marijuana in Brown's blood were so high that they could have caused hallucinations. So let's just run through a little checklist about this situation. Michael Brown, under the influence of marijuana, high levels of marijuana, wanted for a strong-arm robbery, has the stolen goods in his possession. He's jaywalking in the middle of traffic, cars going by on either side, disobeys an officer's request, curses at an officer, assaults and beats up an officer, tries to grab the officer's firearm and pull the trigger, refuses commands to desist, and charges at the officer. Please don't try and tell me this is about race.
Okay, let's assume we're on the grand jury. How would we vote whether or not to indict this fella?
Well, who goes first? Oh, yeah, I'll go.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that given...
Now, there's
given
two... let me stop you and say there's two questions that the grand jury has to answer, Mr. Solution. You probably know this. Was there a crime committed, and was the accused attached to... guilty... I'm not guilty, but was he part of the crime committed? That's the two questions.
Oh, those are going to be the... Well, if we're dealing with the... okay, they're in battle. And this young man, it's sad that he's dead, obviously, but he made a number of, horrible decisions. If that was him, and I've heard there's controversy that it's allegedly him. I mean, has it been proven conclusively that it was him and that he didn't pay, or was there an argument about paying? I mean,
oh no, we've got pictures right here of him that are when he was in the shop.
Okay. Well, even if that's in dispute, and you presume
these are some pictures.
That's not in dispute.
No, here's a picture of him when he was actually committing the robbery that was taken from the camera in the store. He grabs the fella, and this guy must be scared to death, this little guy right here, and then he pushes him pretty tough and throws him up against this counter over here, and then he exits the building. So, and it's definitely...
And he never paid.
No, he never paid.
He never threw the money at the guy.
Here's the cigar. No, he did not. Here's the cigars right here. You can see, and he puts them in his pocket, and then he says, get the blank away from me. So...
They were calling about a robbery at the time, so he was, and that looks like like of a strong arm robbery that they asked for the cigars, and when they brought them out to him, he just snatched them and walked out of the store.
Right.
Wow. Well, initially it was said that when the officer stopped him, he wasn't aware of robbery, but now I understand, due to later information, that he actually was aware that, So how do you guys come down on that? Was he aware?
Well, he wasn't aware that they were the suspects at the beginning. In the beginning, when he asked him to vacate from the middle of the street, and then as they were. He noticed that they looked the description that the gentleman gave, who was robbed. He noticed that they had a description, so he pulled up alongside them, and he was going to actually, I guess, question them. He was asking for backup, and as he opened the door was slammed, and he was supposedly struck by Michael Brown.
This is just horrible. It's just a terrible decision, certainly on Michael Brown's part, because you would ask, what kind of rearing did he get?
Oh, that's right, and we have some new evidence on that. His mother was driving over, and they saw his aunt and a fellow selling T-shirts that said, "No justice."
I think I heard that part.
Yeah, and his mother violently attacks the woman, and the friend with her beat the crap out of him with a lead pipe.
Out of the mother, or
yeah, it was the friend that beat the cousin. The cousin and the grandmother were selling merchandise.
Right.
Can you imagine a grandmother? A grandmother selling merchandise of her dead grandson. That is horrible.
That's hard. And the mother rolls up and says, "What are you doing?" And she goes, "You don't have a patent. You don't have a copyright on his name." And the guy that was with the mother, Michael Brown's mother, gets out with a lead pipe and beats the crap out of the guy and steals the $1,500 that they made.
Oh my goodness!
So that's a little bit to me, that's indicative of the fact that he is raised in a violent home. I don't know.
Well, I've been recently listening to Thomas Sowell's. I don't know if it's white liberals, black rednecks, But
you know that's going to piss Mr. Solution off. Don't start talking about that.
Wait a minute. Hold it. That doesn't piss me off. But you know, he had levels. Oh, you just kidding. Yeah, he had levels of marijuana in his blood. They say high enough to cause hallucinate.
That's right. That's what he
you know,
said.
I don't think just based on that evidence, if it's solid, you know, if it stands up, this is just a reporter presenting it. If that evidence, or even a part of that evidence is true, I don't think the grand jury will hand down.
I don't either. I wouldn't.
So
I wouldn't.
That's the long and short of it. But you know, young men should be taught they can't do that. Whatever. This one happened to identify himself as black.
Let me tell you something, though, Mr. Solution. A lot of these guys that are this age, that are high, are playing, and y'all are going to have to believe me, they're playing a lot of shoot-'em-up games all day long on their video, on their TV screens. They're playing Black Ops. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying.
He was out of control. He was definitely out of control. Fighting the police officer, strong-arm robbery. I mean, that's just beyond the pale. You can't do that sort of thing.
How do you feel about it, Jewish producer?
I'm listening in. I tend to agree. It sounded like the guy was a little out of control.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't say he deserved death, but I mean, when you do things like that, that can happen.
Cops get real scared when there's my brother told me many times, Deborah, the main reason we're so scared is we've got a gun that they could take away from us. How many times have y'all told women, don't carry a gun because the man could take it away from you and use it on you, right? That's the main fear cops have, is guns getting taken away. And what did he try to do? He tried to take his gun.
Right.
You know, I remember when I talked to an officer, and he said, it was an officer who identified as black, but he said when they started to allow women to become to be on the force, because they were on the force before, but in the 70s they were allowing them to come on the force and patrol, and they were lowering the standards for women. And he said, you know, that is a dangerous situation because certain height, certain weight, and they have a firearm. A lot of these guys, you know, every move you think that you know or learn in the academy, some of these guys also know as well, and they can take a gun away from you. And more often than not, the people who have had guns taken away from them have been female officers.
Yeah, but I don't think that. Let me just ask, do you have any evidence that has come to fruition and proved to be a real problem?
You know what? It hasn't been that large of a problem, but on average, the people who've you know, were the high profile cases have been out there. On average, it has been. I don't know of any case where a male officer, and if you know one out there, where a male officer has had his gun taken away and it used on them. It's on average, it's been females. And then there was one not too long ago where a female bailiff had her gun taken away from her, and the guy went on a shooting rampage.
Yeah, so, well, I hear what you're saying, but I don't know that that's a real problem. I think that would tend not to be a problem. You know,
well,
females having their guns taken away. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, you know what? I think that political correctness doesn't allow them to study the case, though, and the dangers of that. I mean...
Yeah, but that would be an argument for silence.
An argument for what?
That would be an argument from silence.
Yeah, that's true.
But getting back to the central point, you know, in my opinion, I think that was probably a good shooting. And
Now,
I mean, it was bad.
I have some statistics. There are no national statistics on how many times officers' guns are taken away, but the FBI says that 616 law enforcement officers killed on duty by criminals from 94 to 03, 52 were killed with their own weapons. So, if that helps you out.
Right, but
percent
that
were women.
doesn't specify gender, though. That doesn't break out. That doesn't have
Correct.
a gender break.
You're right. Correct.
Right. Okay. So again, argument for silence. But you know, the thing is, unless we're willing to, I don't know if you guys heard about this this outrageous civil decision in San Diego involving not Chiefs Auto Parts, but this the one that bought Chiefs out. What is it? The lady that was pregnant, and I have no problem with women that are pregnant working. Presumably she was a single mother, but I think that's the genesis of the problem, especially with males and even with females. Women just can't do a good job raising. Now, I didn't say ever, but the majority of cases, I think something like 93% of people incarcerated are from single female-headed households. That is a social rot. And it appears that our system is not going to recognize what a real problem that is. Now, probably Michael Brown came from a single female-headed household. Do any of you guys know the facts on that?
I heard he had a father. I don't know if the mother and father were living together, but yeah, I'm not sure whether it was if he was a product of divorce or if his parents were together.
Yeah, well, we could probably deduce how many young men who were raised in a two-parent household are out, number one, robbing, number two, fighting with police officers, smoking marijuana to the point you're delusional. I mean, that just doesn't fit with having been raised properly.
Yeah, and it's basically, and it's unfortunate, but I think that women are too soft when it comes to, a lot of times they're too soft when it comes to disciplining their unruly children, and they're basically against society. Every single mother that I've known basically teaches a child to respect them, but to respect outside of society, they don't really do that well, on average.
Do you guys remember the guy that just broke my heart in New York, Mr. Midnight Movie, that got choked out by the cops up there, the great big guy?
Eric Gardner. Yeah.
Eric Gardner. It just broke my heart that night. I was almost in tears about it. Did they not ever indict that cop? Because in New York, at the cop shop, it is illegal. I don't know if it's illegal, but it's in the rules that they're not allowed to chokehold. Has anybody done anything about that? Does anybody know?
Yeah, you know what? In that instance, to me, I don't know why there isn't more outrage at that incident than there is at that, because that to me showed a much stronger case of excessive force.
Oh, unbelievable. That video is hard to watch. Ugh.
Because he didn't attack the officers, he wasn't violent.
Nothing.
And in this case, there is strong evidence that he punched a police officer.
The poor man was just selling cigarettes on the trying to help, and he was like begging them to leave him alone.
Everybody standing here, they told me I didn't do nothing. I did not sell nothing. Because every time you see me, you want to harass me.
These Staten Island these cops jump on him and choke him to death, and he dies. And he's going, I can't breathe. Remember, it broke our heart. Where he was 400-pound asthmatic Staten Island man, father, dies after a cop put him in a chokehold, and other officers appeared to slam his head against the sidewalk. Oh, it was horrible to watch. It was so sad. He was pleading for his life.
I'm minding my business, officer. I'm minding my business. Please just leave me alone. I told you the last time. Please just leave me alone. Please don't touch me. Don't touch me, please.
Hold on.
Listen, don't touch me, please. Do not touch me.
And he starts begging for his life. I can't breathe. And they're choking him to death. They've got his air cut off right there.
Put your hand behind your back. I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
I think those bastards should be shot. They should be hung. And why aren't they? I mean, I'm not trying to start another riot here, but I would be very. I don't know.
Well, this is a much stronger case for wrongful death than Michael Brown, in my opinion. I don't know why there weren't stronger protests for this when,
because they keep saying the word teenager, unarmed teenager. He's a child. They keep saying over and over again. He's this precious little child. They say, and I'm not saying he's not, but they press that every time they mention him. It's teenager and unarmed. Well, this man was unarmed.
Yeah. Well, it just goes to me why it's a good part of me like why it's a good idea to be kind of police your own community and also kind of be armed and have a militia, because the police can always overstep their bounds. And
did you not know about this case, Mr. Solution? This happened right before Brown.
Yes, I heard about that. But I think, what 3M just said is true. And police, and I use the words of Bill Bratton said that there's no group that can spin out of control faster than police. Now, they're like a necessary evil. We need them. It's a shitty job. It's a lousy job. But none of us would want to do it. But, what would have happened had this guy just complied? Now, we talk about street justice. If they want to arrest you, let them arrest you. They have that power. They have that authority. We as a society give them the authority to arrest you. And then sue the living crap out of them afterwards. But you can't win in the streets. So, as tragic as these situations are, I would say the police are usually not going to stop.
No.
I mean, unless you just have an overwhelming force there. They have the authority, the legal authority, and they usually have the weapons and backup. So they're usually going to stop. Okay? And they don't feel they have to. So we as individuals have to ask ourselves, what are we going to do when stopped by a policeman? What should you do?
I don't go out a lot at night. That's what I do. I don't go out a lot at night. I'm too scared of them.
Well, you know something? This is very interesting. Just analyzing it. The police and the crooks, the bad people, do feel that the night is theirs. So I think that's a good idea, unless you have someplace important to go at night. And I'm talking late at night, probably after 12. It's a good thing, not to be out. Because
I won't do it. I won't do it if I need something drastically. If I'm out of diapers or something, Victor goes, or I won't go. I won't go by myself. I'm serious.
This is after 12?
Yeah, like if the baby needs diapers or, something drastic, yeah, absolutely. I won't do it.
Yeah, and this argument that cops are scared, I don't buy that bullshit for one moment. If they're scared, they should hang up their damn badges and take their asses home and sit down and pee. If they're that scared, they accept certain risk with the job. I'm sorry.
And you know what? I would say in this economy, there are plenty of people in line. Whether the economy be bad or good, there are always plenty of people in line to take that job. I mean, when you have an opening for a police officer, the line is around the block for people to fill. You may have 5 positions and 700, 600 applicants. are going to apply for that job.
Yeah, it's a lousy job in a way, but you're right. The benefits are great, assuming your city doesn't go bankrupt. But I mean, they get what do they work? 20 years? They have mandatory. They can retire after 20 years, and they get a decent salary. So I mean, in some ways, the benefits are good, but the job is the reason I say it's lousy is because they're the proctologist of society. And police generally are closer to criminals than they are to regular people. I mean, they go to jail all the time. Rape, murder.
And they are some of the most racist men you've ever met in your life. They're horrible.
Well, you mean in Texas?
Oh, yes. They're good old boys with great big pot bellies and you're in my town now, you're in my county, boy. And they're horrible. We used to not allow Stephen out after dark because of it. Just horrible. One night, Stephen had been, listen to this, one night Stephen had been to a party about 8 blocks from our house. And when he called and said, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, he was intoxicated. He was over 21. And I said, Stephen, do not leave that house. The mother of the house made Stephen and all the boys leave. Stephen went out in his truck to go to sleep, okay? He was parked out in front of the guy's house. He woke up to his truck being towed by the cops, and he was so scared he remained flat in the back of the truck. And he has one of those trucks that has 2 front doors and then 2 back doors. It's a great big, a big Ford 350, whatever you call it. And he was afraid to get up because he was afraid they were going to shoot him or kill him or do something to him. And he ends up calling us the next day from the pound. He's still inside the truck. He goes, come and get my truck. I'm inside my truck. They didn't see him because he was covered up. He was freezing, so he covered up, and they just towed his truck.
Wow.
You believe
that? Debbie, my position, that's a dramatic story, but my position would be that police will abuse anyone whom they can get away with abusing.
Well, you have to look at the person who wants to be a cop. What kind of person? There you go. What kind of person wants to be a cop? A person wants to be a cop when they want to have control, carry a gun, be a bigwig. That's my opinion. That's just my opinion.
No, that's true. Actually, that's true. The thing of it is, and I heard some people say this, but I believe when people have communication, if it's worthwhile communication, they actually come away with, they come away. I would never just go to hear people jaw jerk. I find myself in that setting sometimes, but for entertainment. But my position is always to come away with some factual information. That's what English is designed to do. That's English's sole purpose, is to present facts. And but yeah, policemen will abuse anyone whom they can get away with abusing. They usually don't do it to certain people. Police, they know who they're screwing with. They have a way of knowing. If it's not a sixth sense, being who they are, Debbie, and I agree that a lot of them are power thirsty, bloodthirsty, etc., etc. They generally know whom to screw with and whom not to screw with. I mean, even though they have all this power.
Well, then what do you think is going to happen in Ferguson if they, in fact, do not, which might be what's holding them up, they don't want to indict this policeman? What do you think? And if the policeman gets indicted, what's going to happen if he's found not guilty or put on probation? I think that these people in Ferguson are holding our nation hostage over this.
Well, they say it's actually not the people of Ferguson. They say it's outside agitators.
Okay, you could be right. You could be right. You could be right.
Yeah, I don't think those people really can do anything. I mean, they're unarmed, uneducated. They're powerless people. They don't represent a threat. I think this is a media bullshit buildup. If those people were powerful, number one, this guy wouldn't have been doing what he was doing. That is not a sign of power. Strong arm robbery, marijuana intoxication, and then fighting with a fucking cop? Come on. That's not power.
You know what I mean? But the protesters they do cause a lot of damage, and they do cause a lot of internal strife.
Well, they should be arrested for that.
Well,
if they're destroying property, if they're destroying property, okay, I wouldn't want them to destroy my property. And then if they do that, destroy property, I mean, what if they don't have any goods and not that they should be going to war over?
We've got an update here today that says we at the NAACP find Governor Jay Nixon's decision to declare a state of emergency just days ahead of a grand jury decision in the shooting death of Michael Brown, an unarmed teen, both premature in its application and presumptuous in intention to the hundreds of peaceful demonstrators who have embraced their constitutional right to protest. The more than 200,000 people who descended on Washington, D.C. on August 28, 1963, proved that protests do not need to be violent to be powerful, from the Boston Tea Party to the Montgomery bus boycotts. The ability to protest is woven into the very fabric of this nation and should not be stifled by the presumptuous leadership. Governor Nixon's decision to declare a state of emergency without evidence of violence or danger, that's crazy. They did. Only threatens to stir up tensions and denigrate the peaceful efforts of countless nonviolent activists. We at the NAACP will work tirelessly to ensure that the civil rights of the demonstrators are upheld. And finally, we commend as well as stand with those practitioners of democracy who have stood strong for over 100 days.
You know, I think this is a perversion of the civil rights movement. The NAACP is forgetting that after the verdict of the LA riot, the Rodney King verdict, there were riots. So you always have to prepare for civil unrest. And it's the same thing about voter ID. This is a portion of the civil rights movement that is completely perverse. And I believe that there should be counter demonstrations against that kind of thought. And the more the merrier. Yes, I am. I plan to be one of the leaders.
Please give us an on-site report.
Look at this. If you go to handsupunited.org, you can click here to find a protest near you. Join the movement. Join the movement.
GetALife.org.
Oh, I love this. This is absolutely outrageous.
How about, I'm going to start, let me see, what was I going to start? StopBeingABitchman.org.
Wait a minute. Let's do this. Let's see how they say
Drama Queens.
How Ferguson showed us the truth about police. Let's take a lookie and see what happens here. Rise up. Okay. And
these are civil rights drama queens.
Let's see what we've got here. We've got a drawing of Michael right here. Rest in peace, Michael Brown. And are you kidding me?
Look at that white hand. That's such white guilt. You should have white guilt strewn over his...
Only you would know.
He's pretty meticulous.
Yes, you are. They're just drawing pictures. Never mind. It's just a bunch of pictures they're drawing here. How the cops...
But you know what? If these people are really interested in justice, the citizens of Ferguson, they should... I think they are the majority in that city. So they should... run for police chief and become the people in power.
They can't. They don't have enough education. They can't pass the PIS test. I'm sorry. That was racist. I'm sorry. I take that back.
Debbie, I said before. Well, you understand. You got to be in a position of power to be a racist.
I disagree with that.
But you don't understand. You could be a bigot, you could be biased, and you could be prejudiced, but you can't be a racist. And if you look at racism historically, the government promoted racism. So 3M, the reason you disagree is because you're just operating from an emotional standpoint.
No.
Wait a minute. Let me finish the point. You're operating not from intelligence, just from passion. Okay, historically, there was racism, right? Would you agree with that? Historically in America, there was racism.
Yes.
There wasn't prejudice?
The KKK was horrible.
Just answer the question. I'm trying to lead you to the water so that you can drown.
Okay, sure. But let me also side mention that the word racist is a recent word. It wasn't. Hold on. It wasn't even in the dictionary, the Webster's dictionary, until 1934. But go ahead.
A word defined two ways: by the act, or by a word that describes it. Or the point I'm making to you, so that you can understand this for future reference. This is the point. In the past, you admit there was racism, correct?
Sure.
Okay. And racism represented what? Oppression of one group of people, particularly those identified as black, correct?
Right.
Okay. How did that racism manifest itself?
That was one form of racism, but go ahead.
Allow me to finish.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Finish.
How did the system oppress the people? It did it by color scheme, and it used the laws. It used all the laws to
whites only, blacks to the back of the bus. That was horrible.
Enforced by the police, because if a black went into one of these establishments that said whites only, and you see this from the sit-ins and what have you, then of course they could be legally arrested.
Right.
Even though it was immoral and it was a violation of their rights, the law supported the so-called racism.
Okay, you're right. So
that's the operative point. Say historically, racism was the result of prejudice plus power.
That makes a lot of sense.
I disagree with you on that.
How would you disagree? How would you disagree with that, Mr. Minute Movie? What he said is 100% true.
Okay. The power and are able to use it doesn't
because of the color of your skin.
Okay. I'm not so quick, because that belief basically absolves blacks of moral responsibility not to be racist. But go ahead.
What?
But that doesn't make any sense.
What did you say?
What you just said makes no sense whatsoever.
You said that alone absolves them from being racist. Is that what you said?
Okay. So are you saying, so you're basically also saying that the whites without power can't be racist as well, correct?
No, what I was giving you was the historical expression and actual events where a group of people were suppressed by the nation's laws. That's what I was trying to demonstrate to you. And see, what you want to do is bring it forward to try and make an argument that you want to make. But you're missing the entire point. I'm giving you the origin or the history of racism. That's all.
Okay, I understand the history. What about today? What about today?
Separate. Okay,
but today is the backlash of yesterday. I mean, right? I mean.
Well, today, look, I always say, if you're born in America today, recently, within the last 35, 40 years, you've hit life's lottery, regardless as to who you are. So see, what 3M is doing is the traditional avoiding the truth to try to make a present day point. I would agree that people who don't make it today, it's their own fault. It's primarily their own fault. Now, are there some residuals? Yes, but those are minuscule and minor compared to the way it was historically. Now, all I'm speaking is American history, and that's everywhere. It's easy to understand what happened in American history. I'm not saying it's true today. In fact, I would say it's not true. That's called change.
Okay, we'll agree on that.
But I don't see what you have been arguing previously. I mean, I just don't understand the nature of your dissent.
My dissent is there's a lot of, in my opinion, racist blacks out there.
Absolutely. And there are a few, I'm just going to read a couple of lines. There are a few things in this world that I am surer of than this. Blacks can hate whites. The years that I spent at Pritchard Junior High are illustrative. We hated whites, and that hatred often manifested itself in racial ways. It was us versus them, and the them were whites. This is an excellent article, by the way.
Is my mic open?
and that is really and that's really alive today amongst a lot of blacks. Their animosity is very heavy.
They hate me. They hate me.
Yeah, yeah.
But now
The online ones did.
Hatred and historical racism are two different things. Now, I would advise people not to hate each other. It's a waste of energy. But a person's prerogative, that's part of their prerogative, is to hate. Now, it may be stupid, it may be misdirected, and so on and so forth. But that's not the same as oppressing a person. It's not limiting their opportunities. You follow what I'm saying?
It fucks with words. You can fuck with my. It can fuck with my psyche when certain behavior and feel threatened.
Go to a psychiatrist.
No. I mean, when I feel. Okay.
Trot your ass into a psychiatrist and lie on his couch for a while.
Well, no, there are reasons to feel danger. I mean, blacks are far more allowed to hold on to their tribal identity today than whites are. It's just a fact of life.
That's a separate issue. See, this is the problem with you.
Why is that?
Stop it. Both of you, stop it. I'm not going to have you arguing.
Hold on, Debbie. Let me respond.
I'm not going to have you. I don't want y'all to start fighting on the show, guys.
We're not fighting. I'm simply.
Got him against the ropes, Debbie.
Okay, just don't start yelling at each other, please.
He's always against the ropes.
I've got earphones on. Can I show y'all something first that I got today? This is one of my guys that calls me mom that's black, and here's what he said to me on my voicemail. Take a listen.
And I'm behind. I haven't listened to your messages. I'm excited. I'm just, I love you.
There you go.
Right. Now, 3M may or may not.
What? You didn't even say anything about that. That's why I said.
Hey, in our boxing match, I'd like to have that guy on my team, by the way.
Yeah, he's very big. His name is Hassan, and he loves me. And that's why I'm so confused at these online blacks that hate me and want to kill me and stuff. Because so, shut up. That's all I'm saying.
Race, gender, and class are really not discussed. Everybody just kind of scurries to their neutral corners, and they balkanize. But these issues could be dealt with to a much better degree than they often are. And what I was about to say, Debbie, is that 3M mixes up a bunch of things. He mentioned that now feeling threatened, that is a real issue. If he genuinely does, if he feels threatened, you should take action. And coming on Debbie's show is not the action you should take if you really feel threatened. You should take other actions.
Well, like I said, there are legitimate reasons to feel threatened, and people do have preferences. And my preferences aren't about the color of skin, but the behavior that I'm going to encounter when I encounter large numbers of individuals who happen to be black or who describe themselves as black. I mean,
I agree, but you should do more than just yapping about it on Debbie's show. What else?
Oh well,
what else can you do?
There are plenty of things that I plan on doing.
Such as?
Bloviating on Debbie's show.
Other than yapping on Debbie's show. Debbie is in Dallas.
Yes.
Did you know that?
Yeah, I knew that.
Debbie can't help you. So what are you going to do to help you?
Okay, so what's this got to do? Okay, so you're asking what am I... Well... What was the legitimate point that I read?
On Debbie's show and bitch about it.
Well, I do more than... I mean, it's more than threatened. I do feel like sometimes annoyed and exasperated by certain behavior.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Annoyed is less than threatened.
Well, yeah, of course. No, I'm not. Look, I don't go. Look, I don't go where I'm. If there's a threatening vibe, even no matter how good, like there's a place in the hood that serves rib tips, and I'll go there for that.
I knew it had to do with food. I knew it. I knew it.
But if there was any time where I felt like threatened,
yes,
I would not go. I would decide to go to Fish and Chips or some other place if I felt threatened. And there have been times I've not gotten out of the car.
Yeah, man. Well, where do you go to get your rib tips? By the way, I'm more concerned about that now. You look.
Well, no, I don't want to. I don't want to say the place. I don't want to say where I get my rib tips.
All?
No, but I don't want to say the place because I might, there might be some people listening, and when I go inside to get my rib tips, I mean,
they may ambush you. I doubt it.
Well,
I'm thinking
the TRS crew.
Those guys can't travel across those guys. The place. Please.
I'm not okay. You know what?
Tell me where the damn rib tips are.
Tell me where the rib tips are.
Well, okay. There's one place in Inglewood. There's one place in Inglewood.
What's the name?
Why do you want to know? Well,
what's the name of it?
No.
Yes,
no,
I'm coming to Los Angeles. Maybe I want to go there.
Well, we can have rib tips when we're there, but I'm not talking. I'm not telling.
I'll find it.
Why do you want to? Wait. Why do you want to know where?
Why don't you want to tell him? Why don't you want to tell him where they are,
Mr. Solution? Why do you want
such a thing?
You've never heard of? Wait.
I've never heard anyone act this way.
Here we go. He's being ridiculous tonight. Here we go. You get them at C.A. Bloodzo's Barbecue, Phillips Brother. I'll find them. Damn it.
Now, are these barbecue rib tips?
Ooh, that looks good.
Oh, they're tasty. It's so good that white boys go in the hood.
It says, where do you get rib tips in L.A.? And he says, well, I'm partial to the tips at Bloodzo's at 811 South Long Beach Boulevard in Compton near the corner of Alondra. And they also have burnt ends. Ooh, that sounds so good. And then there's a second Bloodzo's. Bloodzo's meats are virtually unparalleled. I'm so hungry. I'm so damn hungry. I'm starving.
Let's go out and get rib tips after the show. Come on.
Let's see what else.
Actually, they have the best beef in Texas.
J&J Burgers also has them. J&J Burgers and Barbecue on Adams. Get the sauce.
Have you had Kobe beef, Debbie?
Oh, it sounds so good. Yes.
Oh, Kobe beef, I understand, is pampered beef. But 3M, these rib tips that you are speaking of, they're barbecued and not sautéed.
They got all the. Sorry, they have the rib sauce right on it. They saute them. My mouth is watering right now.
Mine is too. I'm so hungry.
They are sautéed to the bone. They are sweet. They're probably. Yeah, you know what?